This is Average Joe Rock and Roll. I am Michael J. Rock, and I am joined today by Ralph, who is a part-time DJ and a full-time cool dude. Hey, Ralph, how are you?
I'm well. How are you today, Michael?
Good, thanks. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no
So,
problem.
so we were chatting a little bit before we started recording the show, and you were talking about, a little bit of your history and, what has fueled you over the years. So, if you want to briefly go back through that a little bit, just to get some context on who you are and what you love.
Okay, well, my name's Ralph Molinario. I do a weekly bluegrass show for WFVR in South Royalton, Vermont, and it's WFVR.org. And I've been doing it for about 4 years now. But like you said, bluegrass isn't kind of not your expertise, but it is mine. But I've had a rock and roll background for years. I'm almost 70, so I grew up in a great era for rock and roll music. I'm telling you, I've seen many shows. I'm from the Boston area. I'm from Brockton, Massachusetts, originally, and I've been to hundreds and hundreds of shows. Uh, my first Grateful Dead show, with your background there, my first Grateful Dead show was 1973, I believe, at the Boston Garden, and
Okay.
yeah, and of course I've seen them many times after that, and that was kind of my initiation into the Grateful Dead stuff. But I mean, I was just into rock and roll from the time I could listen to it. The Beatles and everything. And
So, would you
uh,
say the Grateful Dead was the first band that you fell in love with?
no, that would have to be the Beatles.
Okay.
That
Yep.
like
Yeah.
they first. I remember when they first the Ed Sullivan Show when they first came out, and along with the rest of the company, we got hooked. Country got hooked on the Beatles, and then the Beatles and the Stones and everybody else that came through, Led Zeppelin, that whole era, and
Sure.
then the great, and then the Grateful Dead came along, and that took me in another direction. And of course, when Jerry Garcia was in a band called Olden in the Way, uh, in the early '70s, along with Vasa Clements and Peter Rowan and John Kahn and uh, David Grisman, that sound really attracted me. It was something about I was attracted to the banjo sound even with even before with Flat and Scruggs. Uh, the Beverly Hillbillies. That was every first time I heard the Beverly
Okay.
Hillbillies. That kind of caught me. And I got interested in that. And then in the early '70s, I started going to bluegrass festivals over in New York State. It was called the Berkshire Mountain Festival back then, and used to go to that. And it was a relatively small venue, and it's been growing. It's been 47 years now that festival has changed names several times, but it's called the Gray Fox Bluegrass Festival now. And after 47 years of going to that, I finally got a chance to MC one of the main stages there, which was a great thrill for me this past summer.
I
So,
bet. Sounds like a dream come true.
oh, it was great. It was great. And then the week after that, I went to the Podunk Bluegrass Festival, which was down in Goshen, Connecticut, and I emceed all 3 nights there. And that was great too because it was all the bands that I really enjoy. Recently, the ones I play on my radio show quite often, and it's always great to meet those people that are that are so talented, especially the younger bands that are out there now. The old school bluegrass guys are all kind of dying off. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a lot of Bobby Osborne and people like that were kind of the first wave of bluegrass back in the '40s and '50s, along with Gold Monroe.
But there's a whole new generation that's carrying the torch.
Absolutely, a whole new generation. I've been, like I said, I've been going to this festival for like almost 50 years now, and I've seen generations of kids growing up. They have a kids academy that they have the kids learn bluegrass, and it's a wonderful thing to see these young people taking up music, period, but doing it in a kind of a bluegrassy natural way. And these kids grow up with it being there every summer, and it just gets to be part of their lives. And a lot of them carry on the tradition, and then they change it too. Is they add their all their other influences, rock and jazz, and even rap and ska and all that stuff. Some of that gets thrown right into the mix, and it changes the face of it, but but the base of it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's amazing how that happens when different styles and different influences and stuff kind of turn into something new. And you can call it a subgenre or whatever, but it happens throughout all the different genres of music. I think about a band like Dave Matthews Band. Dave Matthews Band never really sounded like anybody else. And
Right.
when you listen to interviews with those guys, they all came up with different musical backgrounds. So when you
Yep.
got that many guys, 8 or 9 guys that all come together and put something together, when they all have different musical backgrounds, that's what you get for a sound.
Exactly. You get a good blend of that.
Yeah.
Well, Matthews is a good example. Jeff Coffin, who plays these, is the wind instruments there. He plays the double saxophones. I don't know if you've
Yep.
ever seen,
Yep. Yep.
but he was with Bela Fleck, the
Sure.
Fleck,
Yep.
so there's a cross right there. Future Man, the drummer in Bela Fleck's band, I saw him in a jazz ensemble in Brattleboro at the Brattleboro Jazz place down there, and it was amazing. I mean, just the talent that these guys bring to the table is quite remarkable, and that's what keeps me focused. That's what keeps me involved in the music, is that the talent, especially even local talent. Here in Vermont, it's amazing the amount of great musicians we have in the state. And
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 A lot of them highly underrated for sure.
yes, yes, yeah. And but New England, but the New England bluegrass scene is really kind of cool. I mean, my friend Jim Rooney, who's on my on the same station as I, he's a Grammy winning producer, and he produces John Prine's albums and Hal Ketchum, and he started Lyle Lovett's career, and other, I can name drop all day, because, but he really he's helped these people out, and he's been a good friend of mine for the last 5 years, and he's helped me out with making good contacts in the bluegrass world and in the music world in general. And he's doing his last show. He was in a band called Jim Rooney and his Irregulars,
Okay.
and the Irregulars were a mix of people everywhere from John Prine to Nancy Griffith, Sam Bush, Tim O'Brien, Jerry Douglas, all these guys, Sean Camp, who are all may not mean anything to you, being not being into the bluegrass world, but they're you might as well say Mick Jagger and that type of top quality.
Sure.
And he's doing his last show in Nashville on October 4th, and he's done so much for me. I just couldn't not be there. So I booked a flight down to go see this show down in thing with Sam Bush and Tim O'Brien and all these great people that are going to be with him. So it's going to be his last time doing it, and it's going to be a real honor to be there with him.
Yeah, that's great. Kind of a bittersweet experience.
Yeah, absolutely. He's
Yeah.
86 years old, and just and still going strong. And he used to, like I said, he used to tour with Bill Keith, the innovative banjo player who passed a couple of years ago. When uh, Peter Rowan was fairly well known throughout the music world. He was, like I said, he was in Old and in the Way, and he's been having an amazing recent tour around. He just played at the Zen Barn over in Waterbury the other day with some other friends from Beg Steel or Borrow, which is another bluegrass band from Vermont.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I
yeah.
love finding out about these little shows where you get these big people and people don't recognize the name and you show up and there's like 8 people there. I mean, that's a great experience. Very intimate.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, I live in Randolph, and we have a great theater, the Randolph, the Chandler Music Hall, and it's a wonderful venue. We used to my band Second Wind back in the day when before Chandler got their sound system in. They used to use our band's sound system to do performances, and so I was there setting up with when Leo Kottke played there, and Vasa Clements, who was in the band, and I got to meet a lot of people through there. Arlo Guthrie was up there one time.
Yep.
uh, he was a ticket. I remember talking to him in the green room right before a show, and it was in November. And of course, I said, "So Arlo says we were talking to the green. It was just him and I." And I said, "Arlo, are you gonna play Alice's Restaurant?" And he goes, "Well, that song has made me a lot of money." So he went. Of course, he did do it, and but it's experiences like that that keep me involved in the music scene. I just love talking to the because they're just people like us.
Sure.
You know,
Yep.
and
Yep.
they just seem to be able to take their talents and project it out to people and get them hooked.
Yep. Yeah. I think the people that have staying power, it's because they're able to set that ego aside. The ones that implode are the egomaniacs.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And you don't find that in bluegrass music at all.
Yeah.
They're very down to earth people from, like I said, I met up with Jerry Douglas this past year at the Gray Fox Festival. And I mean, he's probably the most recorded instrumentalist ever. He's on thousands of albums, and people, you probably heard him before, but you don't know it. It's
Sure.
one of those, but he's a force in music for sure.
So you mentioned your band Second Wind, and I did actually get a chance to listen to a little bit of that because I've got a streaming service, and some of that was on there. Um, I'm not a bluegrass fan, but what I heard sounded good.
Well,
Um,
that's not we don't consider my that particular band is not bluegrass. I can kind of qualify that. It's not really bluegrass. It's more, I guess you'd have to say it's Americana or roots
okay,
music.
okay,
And
yep,
my bass player Eric Sakai has written probably 80 to 90% of the tunes on
yep,
that album. And Jim Sardonis, who's our lead singer and rhythm guitar player, he's the guy that sculpted the whale tails that are up at here in Randolph and the ones up in Williston.
okay,
World-renowned sculptor. That's his claim to fame.
okay.
Uh,
So any chance of any future Second Wind shows, or are you guys?
we're we're um, we're probably going to do some more recording. There's some songs in the coffer here that we're going to try to put out. But it's been a rough summer. We had a couple of outdoor gigs that were scheduled, and of course, the summer it rained every time that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like it rained every day. But uh, we're not going to probably play. We're taking a little bit of a sabbatical right now just to gather our thoughts and see if we're going to keep playing out. We've had like I said, my friend Jim Sardonis, the sculptor, he's up in his place up in Nova Scotia for the rest of the summer, and he'll
Okay,
be back in September. So we'll get back together and start practicing again, and we'll make a decision on whether we're going to continue to play out anymore.
okay. So like I said, I earlier, my main genre is rock and roll. Now that being said, obviously, if I hear something that sounds good, I don't pigeonhole myself and say, well, I can't listen to that because it's not my
Right.
genre. If it sounds
No,
good to me, it sounds good to me. So for a
absolutely.
guy like me who's entrenched in rock and roll, to become a bluegrass fan, what band would you have me listen to first?
Ooh, that's a good one. Good question. Um, I guess like I said, what started me off. I mean, if you get some guys like Jerry Garcia, if you're dead, are you familiar with Olden in the Way?
No.
Okay, well, if you look up Olden in the Way, that's a good that has Jerry Garcia, like I said, and Vasa Clemens, who's an amazing fiddle player that we lost a few years back. He was a friend of mine. Um, you listen to them, then if you want to listen to some new type of bluegrass, there's just tons. There's a band called Authentic Unlimited. There's Steep Canyon Rangers. I could go on and on and on. I fill my shows with mostly bluegrass and Americana
Yeah.
type of it's called Backroads Bluegrass and Beyond. So I do go a little bit beyond the genre, and like I love the Subdudes, another band called the Subdudes, or the Wood Brothers. are another band. Uh, like I said, I could. Well, hold on. Let me see if I can grab a set list from one of my shows. That might give you an idea. Uh, there's a new young band called Serene Green that are a bunch of kids from Pennsylvania that are um, some of them are Berkeley graduates, Berkeley students. You know,
Okay.
Berkeley School of Music has a bluegrass uh, training, bluegrass classes,
Yeah.
and which it never did before. It was always jazz. I had a good friend of mine that was a jazz guitar teacher at Berkeley, and uh, but bluegrass has really kind of taken on a new thing. The Gibson brothers are another one that they're from upstate New York. Oop, I just heard some other voice. Anyway, let's see. There's a young band that's called the Poor Ramblin' Boys that CJ Lewandowski and a bunch of people that are in that band. They're kind of like the old. They're new, but they're old style. They wear the old style uniform, or not uniforms, but outfits that like they did back in the days of the early bluegrass stuff. So a lot of young people are trying to bring back the old stuff, but put their own spin on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to give those bands a listen.
Yeah, I mean, I can send you a list. There's tons. Uh,
Yeah, that'd be
and
great.
and let's see, there's Danny Paisley. There's a lot of guys. The IBMA, which is the International Music Bluegrass Association, um, they have awards every year, just like the Grammys and things like that. And they always pick people out of there, the best of the best in that. And my friend Danny Paisley is one of the male vocalists of the year 3 times in a row. He keeps getting nominated and ends up winning. He tied with Del McCoury one time. Del McCoury Band is another one that goes out. Del McCoury actually his sons have the traveling McCourys, which is basically them with another guitar player, and Dad kind of stays out of it. It's just the kids
Okay.
do it, and they cover a lot of Grateful Dead stuff, and it mixes the genres in quite well with the younger bands.
Yeah. So I recently saw an interview with Sammy Hagar. I'm sure you're familiar with Sammy Hagar, and he talked about his son Aaron, and his son Aaron is breaking in to the business, and he was talking about how as his son, people automatically assume that he's got an in and that he's uh going to be instantly famous because of his dad, and he's had to climb up just like everybody else. It's not what
No,
people think.
well, that's true. That's true in a lot of things in acting. What do they call them? Neppy babies,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Neppy babies that just because their parents are involved in the acting or any part of the arts where their kid takes an interest in it, says they got an in, but they have to still prove themselves.
absolutely,
You
absolutely.
could be the son of a great artist and then suck at what you do.
Absolutely. No kidding. Yeah,
And that would drag down your parent, I guess. But
yeah, yeah,
but it like there's enough people out there that you don't need to have your parents don't need to be superstars. They do, if especially in the days of YouTube and all this other stuff where young people can learn how to play their instruments or learn the music by watching YouTube. I know back in my day, you used to have to take records and slow them down and
yeah.
um, kind of go old school and read music. My God, you have to read music in order to play what you want to do. But nowadays, it's these kids can. I'm not saying they have it easy. You have to have a raw talent to begin with,
Yeah.
but it helps to be able to see and hear what the artists are doing, so you can pick up on it.
Well, you've got to have that raw talent. You also have to have the drive, because a lot of these
Yep.
guys that got where they are, it's because they practiced, 13, 14, 15 hours a day and never took a day
Yeah.
off.
Yep.
Kind of
Yeah.
became recluses, hid themselves in their basements or wherever, and that
Yeah.
was the product.
Yep, yeah. There's a Leo Kottke told me one time is that when somebody is as talented as you have these people that are like super talented musicians, it leaves a hole somewhere else in them.
Yeah,
you know, there's that's why a lot of these super talented people have some sort of not a disability, but they're lacking in different areas where they'll say somebody's a genius, but they can't tie their shoes or something. One of the,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Some of them very socially awkward.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But that's how they got where they are.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm who am I to stop them?
but the reality is that I mean, even outside of music, people that have obsessions, they have obsessions, and
Yeah,
sometimes they're time consuming obsessions, and everything else does kind of take the back burner.
yep, and things fall by the wayside,
Yeah,
like marriages, relationships, and friends, and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But in the long run, I think most people that are out there in the world making music do it for their own reasons, and a lot of times we're as a listening public, we're happy that they do.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. So, do you have any big passions outside of music?
I'm a photographer. I've been
Okay,
doing photography for years. Like I said, I'm a retired, semi-retired electrician. I
okay,
still I still do that. Matter of fact, I'm planning a trip, like I told you, to Nashville in October, and it's, believe it or not, it's my first time ever to Nashville, and seeing that's kind of the birthplace of a lot of the music that I listen to comes from, and a lot of the recording studios are there. Matter of fact, I'm going to go visit Dark Shadow recording studio in Nashville. Steve and Yana Motion. Steve's the guitar player in the Sam Bush band,
okay.
and he invited me down. I told him I was coming. I was kind of we're kind of friends, and I told him I was coming to Nashville, and he says we'll have to plan a visit. So, and I've looked ahead. I got a couple of shows I'm going to be doing at some of the great places down there in Nashville. So I'm very excited to go.
Yeah,
I'll
no,
have
it
to.
sounds like a great trip. I've never made it to Nashville myself. I want to get down there because I know there's a ton going on, ton of
Oh,
history, and I love sucking all that stuff in.
oh yeah. It's gonna. I'm gonna have to pry me out of that place, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
I feel the same way about Austin. I've never been to Austin, and I'd love to go
oh
there
yeah,
just for the
yeah,
history
yeah.
there as well.
The Austin City
Yeah,
Limits things. I've always wanted to go to those festivals or to the venue itself. But yeah, like I said, you're on the right path here as far as music is all tied together. You do rock stuff and I do bluegrass, but there's elements of all of that.
yeah, yeah. You know the best thing for me about music is and I had mentioned this on one of my other podcasts that you take a bunch of people that are music fans and you put them all together and all of the politics and everything else that divides people just kind of goes away.
Away. Yeah, and that's what's wonderful about you're right. That happens in all genres of music. You, like I said, that's and we need more of that. That's what we need more of. We need a lot
Absolutely.
more face-to-face talk with people and talk about the real things that are about. And music's a great real thing to talk about. I mean, in bluegrass especially because it's a southern. It's more. It's kind of originated down south. Uh, the politics gets it's there, but it's not present in the music for the
Yes.
most part. Bluegrass music is and back in the old days it's actually kind of violent. It's beautiful music, but there's always a song about some guy killing his woman and throwing her into the river. It's that, and
Yeah.
it's
It's
yeah,
funny because when I was growing up, I fell in love with music the first time I heard it, honestly, and I listened to songs and I listened to music for years and I loved it and I'd go see the shows and I'd dissect the bands and learn who was what and so on and so forth like that, right? But years later, actually started dissecting lyrics. And I was like,
yeah.
oh,
What were they trying
that's a
to
little
say?
dark.
Well, that's
But
well, it's funny. Steve Martin, the band, the Steve Martin, the comedian. He,
yeah,
I introduced the Steep Canyon Rangers at the Podunk Festival a couple of weeks ago, and Steve Canyon Rangers are the band that Steve Martin has 3 albums with. That was his backup band, and I was supposed to introduce him, and I wanted to come out with an arrow through my head. I just really wanted to do that, but but it ended up that I didn't get a chance to introduce him on the main stage because, like all summer long, we've had thunderstorms. So they ended up coming inside a small little venue, a small little welcome center that we had there at the festival, and they did a short and then they did an acoustic set that was very very personal and
That's great.
yeah, very intimate thing. And I did get a chance to introduce them. They actually introduced me to introduce them because
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to get there as right as the show started. I was running between stages,
Yeah.
and so
Neat.
it was cool. Yeah, yeah. It was a very memorable uh time.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Ralph, we are running out of time here.
Oh, no
Uh,
problem.
yeah.
I hope you got a chance to cover some of what I'm into here. And
Yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure. I stepped out of my comfort zone a little bit, but it's good for me because like I said, I don't like to pigeonhole myself too much. I like to branch out a little bit. You gave me
I'll
some great stuff to listen to.
and
Um,
I'll send you some emails too about some other bands, like some jam bands that a lot of your rock folks might like.
yeah,
The
yeah,
Infamous
yeah. No,
String, all those big jam band guys.
yeah, no. I truly appreciate that. So again, thanks for coming on. And
Well,
with
thank.
that, I am Michael J. Rock. I am a music fan. Enough said. Thank you, Ralph.
All right, take care now.